The owner that drives this 2010 Nissan off-road XTERRA 4x4 said she's getting like a scraping, buzzing, rattling noise when she shifts gears. It's just this, dude. Super common on all Nissan SUVs and trucks pretty much. These clamps right here on these exhaust shields get all rotted out and break. And then it makes all kinds of noise when you're accelerating, shifting, hitting bumps, all that. But the other scraping sound she's hearing is the wear indicators on the brake pads. She needs brakes all the way around. So we're gonna throw some new clamps on this exhaust. We're gonna be doing front and rear brakes on it, rotors and pads. So come help me, dude, please. I need you. Typically, we just throw some worm drive clamps on them. Quick, easy fix. We don't charge them anything, especially if they're doing other work. We just do it without even estimating them anything, and we'll just take care of it and then let them know after we finish up the car that we got rid of that rattle for them. They're always really stoked after we do that. Way better, bro. And just because OCD, custom, bro. Let's go ahead and get these brakes handled. So whenever you're doing front and rear brakes, I don't crack the bleeders on the calipers when I compress them back in. There's multiple different reasons for that. We can get into a debate in the comments if you want. So when I compress the calipers, it's gonna end up pushing brake fluid back up into our master cylinder. I'm gonna set the fluid level at our minimum line. If we need brakes on the front and the rear, and we compress all 4 calipers, that's gonna bring us back up to our maximum line at the end. If we were doing just the fronts or just the rears, I'd go halfway between max and minimum, and that would bring it back up to the maximum line if they're pretty much all the way wore out. Okay, and then I like to just throw a rag over it, leave the cap off, throw a rag so nothing falls in there. If it does seep out a little bit, a rag will catch it. And then when I do brakes, I like to start at one wheel, do the whole brake job on that wheel, and then move on to the next wheel, keeping my cart on my hip the whole time. I'm starting on this right front because it's right by my toolbox. So once I have all the tools out, I'll just keep them on my cart and go all the other wheels. And here's the scraping noise she was hearing right here. See how this wear indicator is all shiny on this edge? Typically when you have a wear indicator noise, you'll hear it when you're not pressing the brakes, and then when you press the brakes, it'll go away. And that's exactly what this one was doing. Someone was asking me if I was worried about getting the boots with the wire wheel when I'm wire wheeling the face of these pistons. That's exactly why I wire wheel them while they're out. That way the boots aren't all scrunched up. I'll show you what I mean once I push them back in. And then I like to wire wheel this face right here also, where it contacts the outer pad. One reason I don't like to open the bleeder while I'm compressing the calipers is because I like to feel if there's any resistance pressing the calipers back in, or if there's any restriction in our hose. If we had the bleeder open and we press the calipers back in, we might not notice if there's a hose restriction. And it's just completely unnecessary to crack the bleeder. I know people are gonna disagree with me, and that's fine, but I've been doing it this way for probably about 15 years now. I used to crack the bleeder every single time, until when I worked at Toyota, they specifically told us not to at the dealer I was at, and so I stopped doing it at that point. And I've been doing it that way, like I said, for 15 years ever since. Zero issues. And then these boots had a little bit of air trapped in them. That's why they were still kind of swole out. All you have to do is get a pick down on the boot right here, where it recesses down into the little groove on the piston, and pull up on it a little bit, and that'll release the air out of there and let them relax back in place. I like to hit the rotor from the back side just so I'm not smacking the wheel hub. Probably have to hit it really hard to bend it or to dent any bearings inside there, but Just seems like a better idea to me. And then I'm gonna use this hub cleaning tool. We're gonna clean up this hub face, get it nice and clean. That way we don't have any rust jacking or any lifting underneath our rotor, which could cause lateral run out issues, which eventually would cause a pulsation in our brakes on our new brake job. This tool right here is made by a company called Kaifnt, K-A-I-F-N-T. They're just little roll-locks. Goes on your half-inch gun. You can get them on Amazon. And then I also buy these roll-locks of some silicon carbide discs, and I use these to clean up the rest of the hub face and other things, but mostly for brakes. And then I like to hit this inside corner of the hub and the hub itself with a wire wheel. I'm using this flat file just to make sure we don't have any rust jacking on the bracket itself. That'll make your pads fit too tight. And I'm just using this to scrape them, make sure they're flat, and then I clean them up with a wire wheel after. Typically for slide pins, you just need to wipe them off with a rag unless they're all rusted out. You don't want to spray these slide pin bushings right here with brake cleaner because it'll swell them out and they'll get stuck down inside the bore. I also want to put them back exactly where they came from. Every time I take a brake caliper bracket apart, I always have it facing my right, and I take the pins out and set them out in whatever spot they came out from. Then I like to fill these up with some brake cleaner. Hello, brake cleaner, are you there? Clean them out with this wire brush. This is just a pipe cleaning set that I got off Amazon. Blast them out with some air. And then I only use Sil Glide on all my brake parts for lube. If you love it, lube it. We're gonna just lightly coat these pins. You don't wanna leave a bunch of excess on there, that's plenty. Because they need to be able to slide all the way down in there without hydro locking on the bottom. And if you have too much grease on there, it can cause all kinds of weird stuff. I've had cars have pulsations from too much grease, but also if there's too much grease in there, it'll sometimes hold pressure on your outside pads, so you gotta watch out for that. And then I like just a little skim coat on the brackets under the hardware. Anywhere where metal's touching metal is gonna get a skim coat of Sil Glide on my brake jobs. Whoever did this brake job last time didn't have the little spreader clips inside there, but we got new ones, so it's all good. Everything's fine. So a few things that the lube does on here. These brake hardware shims are either stainless steel or they're coated. These are coated and stainless steel. It's not the shims themselves that's rust. It's the caliper brackets that get rust jacking underneath and then push the shims up tight. And what can also happen is the paint will wear off of the pads right here and you'll get rust jacking on the ends of the pads also. A bunch of people telling me that they don't come with lube from the factory. You don't need to lube them, you're not supposed to. Yes, they do, dude. A lot of times they do, and also, if you look up most brake procedures, especially on Japanese vehicles, it will list right in the procedure that you're supposed to lube these specific spots. I like to use these little brushes that I got off Amazon for putting lube on, especially on these kind of hardware shims where they have like these anti-rattle clips built into them. But when you're putting on the grease, you want to make sure it's just a light skim coat and you want to wipe off any excess. The other thing this grease does is it helps with thermal expansion. By having grease on these shims, it keeps them from swelling up with heat. And it also makes sure that we have a brake job that's not going to have any noise. Most of the time, noise is caused by metal vibrating together, and by having lube between all metal contact points, that keeps that vibration from happening, i.e. keeps the noise from happening. Where's my blue Loctite, dude? Hello? Blue? Where'd you go? Bitch. Little brother's stealing my stuff all the time, dude. And then if it calls for red, I will use red on the bracket bolts. This one does not, so I'm just going to put some blue thread locker on these ones. When it comes to the positioning of your wear indicator, you want it on the leading edge of the rotor. That side's going to wear out a little bit faster than this side most of the time, but also if we had it on this side and the rotor started hitting it, it would just break it off, which would be nice because it would stop making noise, but then your pads would start grinding. So that always goes on the leading edge depending on which side of the hub the pads are on. If it was on this side, it would go on top, but on this side, since the wheel turns this direction, it goes on bottom. I like to preload my caliper brackets with the pads. And the easiest way that I found to do that is to get it on this edge first, down inside the corners right here, diagonally, and then just roll them into place. That works on 9 out of 10 caliper brackets, but I see a lot of guys struggle with that. That's ready to go back in. Hopefully these rotors are right. I didn't check them first, which I normally do. You'll notice I added just a little bit of anti-seize just around the corner of the hub. That's where these rotors typically get stuck, and that's why I put that on there. And I like to use my wheel stud installation tool with a lug nut just to keep it snugged down so it's straight up and down. Makes it easier to get back on. (136 foot-pounds or 184 Newton meters. Perfect. Whenever you're using air to blow calipers out, make sure you don't blast air directly into these boots right here. You could accidentally blow debris down inside the boot, which could nick the seal and cause it to start leaking. And then same thing here on these calipers. If you love it, lube it. We're gonna do a skim coat anywhere metal's touching metal, just like everything else. Wipe off all the excess, tiny dot of the blue. And then with these guys, you gotta kinda hold the pads in place at the same time as putting the caliper back on, because it'll just jump the pads right out of the brackets if you let go of them. Like this. Which is great because they keep them spread, but a lot of people struggle with getting the caliper back on. You just gotta hold them and get one side started and then roll it into place. It's not a big deal, dude. (20 foot-pounds on the caliper bolts. Easy. Don't leave your hook under there. It'll make all kinds of racket. And then, like I said, I like to go start to finish. So a little discount double check. Got it, got it, got it, got it. Clips are in, everything's lubed. Let's get this wheel back on. Got my impact set to low. That's getting them down to maybe 30-40 foot-pounds. We're gonna hand torque all 4 wheels at the end when we let it back down. But on this next side, I'm gonna go ahead and do the whole shebang over here. As you can see, I've already got all my tools out ready to go for this side. And I'm just gonna do this side normal speed without talking like I normally would if I wasn't making a video, just so you can kind of see my process without blabbering the whole time. I said I wasn't going to talk, but I specifically got this adjustable wrench right here because it's thin jaw. This is made by Channel Lock. That's what I mostly use them for. Also, sway bar and links, they work really well. This one has 1 spreader on it. Dude, 1 out of 4, not bad. See how I was saying the bottom or the leading edge of the pad will wear out a little bit faster than the top or the trailing edge of the pad. And then see how there's no paint left on these? That's why you want to love it and lube it. If you ever come across some boots that are ripped while you're doing this job, always replace those boots. If those boots are ripped, they'll allow water and corrosion to get into those pins and get them all seized up. And your pad should slide nice and smooth with basically no restriction at all. If you have to force them, then you need to go ahead and file the bracket down a little bit more. You don't want to grind the paint off the end of these pads because then those are just going to rust out. It's usually the bracket that is all tight because of the rust in there. Because I know somebody's wondering right now, the reason I'm not cleaning off these brake rotors, because these are fully coated, polymer coated rotors, and this coating that's on here is actually meant to be on there, and it breaks in with the new pads when we go and do our break-in process and our bed-in process on the pads. The coating will wear off only on the braking surface, and the rest of the rotor will stay fully coated, but these come packed dry, ready to install, no cleaning necessary. If you get rotors that are bare metal, they come with an oil film on them. That way they don't rust in the packaging. Those do need to be sprayed off with brake cleaner and wiped off with a rag. say it with me if you love it. Lube it. Little skim coat of Seal Glide on the outside pad, or where the outside pad will contact, and then on our piston faces as well. Somebody was pretty hard on this wheel. It's got all kinds of marks on it. That wasn't me, dude. You guys saw me. I didn't do that. Like I said, I'm gonna torque all 4 wheels once we bring it back down on the ground, but I'm gonna do a part 2 for the rear brakes. So come on, follow me to part 2. We'll do the rears.